My parents didn't just skip my wedding. They skipped it because I got married before my perfect sister. Not because they were busy. Not because something unexpected happened. They chose not to come. And the worst part is, I understood why the moment I saw the empty seats, because nothing about it was new. It just looked worse when it happened in public. My entire life had been building toward that moment. I just didn't want to admit it. My sister was everything they were proud of. The one they talked about. The one they showed off. The one they built their version of a perfect family around. And me? I was the version that didn't quite fit. The one they kept in the background. So when I got engaged first, when I did something that was supposed to matter, something that should have been celebrated, it didn't feel like a milestone to them. It felt like a disruption. Like I had stepped out of my place in a story that was never meant to center around me. And instead of adjusting, they removed themselves completely. Standing there on my wedding day, surrounded by people who chose to be there. I kept looking at those 2 empty seats, trying to figure out why it still affected me. Not because I didn't expect it, but because part of me had still believed that maybe this one moment would be different. It wasn't. And that's when it finally became clear. They didn't fail me that day. They just stopped pretending to be something they were never going to be. I didn't realize how uneven everything was when I was younger. Not at first. Because when something is constant, it doesn't feel like a problem. It just feels normal. My sister wasn't just better in their eyes. She was the standard. Everything was measured against. And I was whatever didn't quite reach it. It showed up in ways that were easy to overlook if you weren't paying attention. The way my parents reacted to our achievements was never the same. When she succeeded, it was celebrated, shared, turned into something worth talking about. When I succeeded, it was acknowledged quickly, like something that didn't need much attention before moving on. And over time, those differences add up. Not loudly, quietly, in the background, until they shape the way you see yourself. It wasn't just about success either. It was how they spoke to me, how they looked at me, how everything about me felt like something that needed to be improved. My appearance was never enough. My choices were never quite right. There was always a suggestion, always a comparison, always a reminder that I could be better if I tried harder, if I was more like her. And the more I tried, the more obvious it became that it wouldn't change anything. Because the problem was never effort. It was expectation. By the time I reached my mid-20s, I stopped trying to earn something they had already decided not to give. Not out of anger. Just understanding. I focused on building a life that made sense to me instead of chasing approval that was never coming. And for a while, that distance made things easier. Because when you stop expecting something, it stops disappointing you. At least, that's what I told myself. Until the moment I needed them to show up, and they didn't. I met my husband in a place where none of that followed me. There were no comparisons. No expectations I had to live up to. No version of me I needed to fix before I could be accepted. He just saw me the way I was and treated that like it was enough. And at first, that felt unfamiliar. Almost uncomfortable. Because I wasn't used to being valued without conditions attached to it. I wasn't used to someone listening without already deciding what I should be. But the more time we spent together, the more that feeling settled into something real. Something stable. And for the first time, I started to see myself differently. Not through their standards. Through my own. So when we got engaged, I thought maybe this would be the moment things changed. Not completely. Just enough. Enough for them to show up. Enough for them to acknowledge something that actually mattered to me. I told them, expecting something simple. A reaction. Excitement. Anything that felt real. Instead, there was a pause. A hesitation that lasted just a little too long. And then questions. Not about how I felt. Not about the future. About timing. About whether it made sense. about whether I was rushing into something. And that was the first moment I felt it clearly. That familiar distance I thought I had left behind. As the wedding planning started, that feeling didn't go away. It got stronger. They stayed uninvolved. Always busy. Always unavailable. Always just far enough away to avoid being part of anything that mattered. And I kept trying anyway. Calling. Updating them. Including them in decisions they clearly didn't care about, because part of me still believed that if I just tried a little harder, they would show up. They didn't. And if you've ever been the one putting in all the effort, hoping someone will finally meet you halfway, you already know how that ends. So before this gets worse, take a second, like the video, and subscribe, because what happens next is the moment everything finally breaks. The day of the wedding was exactly what it was supposed to be. Calm. Beautiful. Everything we planned came together without anything going wrong. From the outside, it looked perfect. The kind of day people imagine when they think about moments like this. But there was something missing. And it wasn't subtle. It was there in every space that should have included them. The front row seats stayed empty. Untouched. Like a quiet reminder that some things weren't accidents. I noticed it the moment I walked in. Even before anything started. I told myself it didn't matter. That it didn't change anything. But it did. Not in a way that ruined the day. In a way that made everything clearer. During moments that were supposed to feel bigger. Like walking down the aisle or looking out into the crowd. I found myself searching for something I already knew wasn't there. Not because I expected them to show up, but because some part of me hadn't fully accepted that they wouldn't. And then there were the moments that made it impossible to ignore. The father-daughter dance that never happened. The space where he should have been standing. Guiding me through something that was never going to exist. And that was when it shifted. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like something settling into place. Because the truth is, that day didn't break anything. It confirmed something. They hadn't failed me in that moment. They had been consistent. Completely. Predictably. And for the first time, I stopped trying to explain it away. After the wedding, I told myself I didn't need answers. That what happened was already clear enough. But clarity doesn't stop questions. It just changes the kind you ask. So I reached out. Not to argue. Not to confront. Just to hear what they would say when they had to explain it out loud. And what I got wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an excuse. It was a story. One that didn't match reality in any way that mattered. They said they never received an invitation. Said they were hurt. Said I had excluded them. And for a moment, I almost believed it. Not because it made sense. Because I had spent years being told my version of things wasn't always accurate. That maybe I misunderstood. That maybe I overreacted. But this time, I checked. Every message, every email, every confirmation, everything had been sent. Delivered. Saying, there was no gap. No mistake. No misunderstanding to fix. And that's when something shifted again. Not emotionally. Logically. Because once you remove doubt, what's left is intention. This wasn't an accident. It was a decision. A quiet one, but a clear one. And instead of confronting it, instead of forcing them to admit something they were never going to take responsibility for, I did something different. I stopped protecting them. Not publicly. Not aggressively. Just, honestly, when people asked why my parents weren't there, I told them the truth. No exaggeration. No emotion. Just facts. And that was enough. Because the truth doesn't need to be pushed. It spreads on its own when people start connecting things they ignored before. And once that started happening, I didn't have to do anything else. The shift didn't happen all at once. It never does. It started quietly. In conversations I wasn't part of. Questions people didn't used to ask, details they hadn't noticed before. And once they started noticing, they couldn't stop. My parents tried to control it the way they always had. They reached out to people individually, explaining their version, trying to protect the image they had spent years building. But something was different this time. The story didn't hold. Because when people already feel like something is off, they don't accept explanations the same way. They start comparing, connecting, remembering things they ignored before. And the more my parents tried to fix it, the worse it became. Not because I was exposing them, because they were exposing themselves without realizing it. Every explanation created more questions. Every excuse revealed more than it covered. And slowly, that perfect image they had built around my sister started to crack. People who would have shown up without hesitation began stepping back, quietly, carefully, but enough to matter. Invitations were declined. Plans changed. Support shifted. And for the first time, none of it had anything to do with me. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I wasn't trying to win anything. I was just outside of it. Watching something that had always controlled my life finally lose its hold. And that's when I understood something I wish I had realized years ago. I didn't lose my family when they skipped my wedding. I lost the illusion that I ever had the one I needed. And somehow, that felt lighter. If you've ever been the one who was never enough, you already know the real freedom is stopping the need to be. So hit like and subscribe. Because stories like this are more common than people think.